This video is going to contain spoilers from the finale of True Detective Night Country. I'm just warning you now. So the finale for True Detective Season 4 recently aired, and it's safe to say that the ending was one which split us viewers. Some loved it and some hated it. To be honest, I was kind of on the fence in the sense that there were some good moments within it, but I felt cheated by the Season 1 things that just amounted to absolutely nothing. It felt like they were included as a way of just keeping us hooked, which is a bit unfair. Plus, I also wasn't really a fan of the coincidences that led to the smooth flowing of the plots and revelations just landing on their laps in the finale. I think it needed 2 more episodes, and then maybe the story wouldn't have felt so rushed at the end. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about this scene here. The one where Evangeline Navarro upped and left and walked out onto the ice and wasn't seen by anybody, other than when she appeared standing next to Liz right at the end. Is she dead? Is she alive? Or is she a ghost? Well, I'm going to be delving into that subject and answering what I think happened to Evangeline and what it all meant. I'll provide an argument for her being alive and also one for her being dead, and then give my conclusion. So let's dive into it. The argument for Evangeline being alive. Well, the argument for Evangeline being alive is something which I think has more weight behind it. We know from the start that Evangeline said that she wished that sometimes she could just walk away and leave everything behind, something she was never truly able to do because she had her sister, Julia, who she was constantly worried about and was looking out for. This was something that was ingrained within her from when they were younger, as we saw in the flashback here. So she knew that she could never leave the town of Venice because her sister required her help quite a lot due to the issues that she had. However, with Julia being dead by the end of the show, it meant that there were no longer any more ties that were holding Evangeline down in Ennis. Her sister was gone, her relationship with Karvik was relatively loose throughout the entire time that they were together, and also, when you think about it, she was the one that was always going to him, so I don't think that would have been a tie. Plus, the case of Annie K, which haunted her mind for years, was now solved. The case of the scientists was solved, and she found out her true name. Something that she always wanted to know. So she was almost this different person now. Somebody that had more of a free mindset and had nothing holding her back from quite literally doing what she wanted. When looking at Evangeline's closest friend in the show, it was Rose. And during episode 4, we found out that Rose wasn't who she said she was. Rose used to be a very serious professor in a very serious school writing very serious ideas, when just one day she was editing an article and realized that she'd had enough and just decided to leave. She left the noise of the busy life that she had before and moved to Ennis under a different name for some peace and quiet. Evangeline would often go to Rose when she needed advice, and I feel like she was almost a motherly figure towards her, or maybe more of an auntie. So in having Rose as a role model and somebody to go to, maybe she just did the same and mirrored what Rose did when everything just got a bit too much and realized that she wanted a change in life. Evangeline's true name that she'd spent the entirety of the season wishing that she knew, when translated, meant the return of the sun after the long darkness. I feel this is symbolic of Evangeline's journey in the show. Her walking out onto the ice wasn't her walking off like Julia did, the scientists did, and Raymond Clark did. This didn't mean death to her, but it was her having no ties, nothing holding her back, and now understanding who she truly was. She followed her calling out onto the ice during the blizzard on the 14th day of darkness. If she was going to die, it probably should have been then. But the dead wanted to tell her something instead. They didn't want to take her away. So she was moving on and now being the free person that she always wanted to be. Quite literally living her dream of being able to walk away and leave everything behind. The fact that her whole house was stripped of pretty much everything, even bedding, it makes me think that she just upped and left. There was no trace of her other than a photo of her sister and herself on her fridge, looking like she'd decided to leave rather than end things. So that would mean that Evangeline was also standing next to Liz on the decking in the final shot of the episode. Although they didn't really acknowledge each other, it could just be because they're away with one another. After all, Liz and Leah did look like they were traveling somewhere on vacation. Liz and Evangeline had a relationship like no other in the show. They covered for each other on a countless number of occasions, and they both saved each other when they truly needed it. They were dear friends, although they had a funny way of showing it. And I think after the cases had been closed, that friendship was something that was just able to be, because there was no more trouble or conflict amongst them. So whether this be where Evangeline is now living, or a holiday where they met Evangeline, if she's alive then she would have been there with Liz. Plus, she's also in different clothes to the last time that we saw her when she walked out onto the ice. And it seemed like the dead appeared in the same way that they left, Julia being a prime example of that, and also Wheeler's girlfriend that he killed. The argument for Evangeline being dead. The last time that we saw Evangeline when she was by herself, she was on the ice looking ahead and she just walked out onto it, something that we only ever saw bad things associated with. For example, Julia walked out there and died, the scientists walked out there and died, and Raymond Clark walked out there and died too. So naturally, one would assume that the same thing would happen to her. We know that she would often have callings and voices inside of her head, especially when she was out on the ice. It was said that there was this powerful entity that was present, and she believed in a curse that took her mother, took Julia, and it was going to take her. So what if that was still within her mind following the last time that she walked out onto the ice and she was doing the exact same thing here too? With regards to her being visible at the end on the decking, there was no true reaction from Liz when she appeared. I think this could mean a couple of different things which connect to her being dead. Liz was always a skeptic when it came to Evangeline saying that she could see things, something that would often make me laugh because Liz would get so frustrated. But we saw that towards the end of the finale, Liz wanted Evangeline to tell her what Holden said to her when she spoke to him in her vision. This was the complete opposite to how she reacted earlier on when she told Evangeline to never mention his name, showing that maybe she was starting to come around to the idea that the dead can be visible to some people. So if Evangeline did die, that could mean that Liz was now able to see the dead, and Evangeline was one of them that would come to visit, just like how Travis would for Rose because he cared about her. Or there was an important line that was spoken by Evangeline towards Liz when she mentioned that Holden wanted Evangeline to tell Liz that he sees her. Obviously, Liz never truly saw Holden whilst dead, not like Evangeline could. So what if this is Evangeline just simply seeing Liz, and maybe Liz still can't see the dead? It's definitely an option. It's clear to see that the showrunners wanted to leave this as an ambiguous ending and make us be the deciders on whether or not Evangeline had a happy ending where she found peace and was able to leave the haunted town of Ennis, the town that caused her so much trouble over the years, or if she had a sad one and ultimately met her demise due to the curse that she felt was always going to be coming her way due to it impacting her mother and sister. So what do I think? Well, personally, I feel as though Evangeline was alive at the end. The show had plenty of opportunities to kill her off, and for her to just be dead at the end or walk off towards her death, that's something that I'm not really a big fan of the idea of. Her name was literally the return of the sun after the long darkness. That doesn't make me think of death. That makes me think of life, happiness, moving on, and truly living how one would want to after going through so much trouble. I would have preferred it if we actually got a sense of resolution with Navarro. She was a real complex character, had her demons, her issues, and we saw her face them. To not truly know what happened to her after going through all of that with her is a bit of a shame. It's not on the same level, but with Rust and Marty, we saw these two characters grow, develop, change, be redeemed, and watch them go off together. That's what you want after spending time with characters, especially complex ones. If we never really saw what state Rust and Marty's mind was in right at the end and it was just left up to interpretation, it probably would have been disappointing, because never would I have thought that Rust would see less darkness in the world than Marty. Like with the Tuttle cult members that were never identified and went free in Season 1, like with the identity of the person who placed Annie K's tongue in the Salal research facility, the question on if Navarro survived or not is exactly one of those things. The part of a case that doesn't actually ever get solved, because the main part did get solved, so I can kind of see why they did that with Navarro. But personally, I'm on the side of her being alive. So, there you have it, True Detective Season 4, Evangeline Navarro's Fate Explained. If you want to see more videos on True Detective Night Country, then click on the card in the top corner. I've been covering the entirety of Season 4, plus I've also got some videos on Season 1 in there too, such as answering why I feel it's perfect and also a deep dive into the mind of Errol Childress. So if you want to take yourself back to 1995 Louisiana with Rust and Marty, then they're over there on the channel. What do you think happened to Navarro? Do you agree with me in thinking that she could be alive? Let me know in the comments below. I just want to say a massive thanks for watching the video and tuning into all of the True Detective Season 4 coverage that I've done in breaking down the episodes. Be sure to stick around because there's going to be more on the way, and I'll see you in the next one.